We do have a very busy day and a lot to get to, including that breaking news in Georgia, the overnight arrests of a father and son accused of murdering a black man who was jogging in their neighborhood. We will have a live report just ahead, Savannah.
We will, but we're going to start with the nation bracing for this morning's new jobs report. It is expected to be a stunner. Record unemployment because of the coronavirus. Tens of millions of Americans out of work and in desperate need of help this morning. NBC's Tom Costello begins our coverage. Tom, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Savannah. This is expected to be the worst jobs report since the Labor Department started keeping records. And in fact, the highest unemployment rate likely since the Great Depression. And many more people haven't yet filed for unemployment. Tens of millions of people have now filed, in fact, and states starting to reopen. The president wants a quick turnaround, but most experts think it's going to be a slow process. Even with states starting to ease stay-at-home orders and some people returning to work, the coronavirus pandemic is still expected to produce the single worst jobs report ever. And the numbers are staggering. At least 20% of the country's workforce is currently off the job. In Illinois alone,
more than 1 million initial unemployment claims just since March 1st.
Nationwide, more than 33 million Americans have filed for unemployment. And payroll processing company ADP reporting private sector job losses at 20 million last month alone. 20 million. The economic mess forcing some across the country to seek help from local food banks for the first time in their lives. Myra Gonzalez is a server at the Borgata Casino and Resort in Atlantic City, part of the hardest hit sector, leisure and hospitality.
I'm ready to go back. I need to go back. I need money. But I want to do it in a safe environment.
This pandemic taking a toll on trade, transportation, as well as construction. Also feeling the pain, retailers from small businesses to big box stores. On Thursday, Neiman Marcus filed for bankruptcy after J. Crew did the same earlier in the week. Other major chains reportedly considering similar moves, Seattle-based Sur La Table and JCPenney, with Lord & Taylor planning to liquidate its inventory once its stores reopen. Meanwhile, President Trump says he's looking for a bounce back later this year.
I'm viewing the third quarter as being a very important quarter because it's, as I said, that'll be a transition. I think you could almost say a transition into greatness because I think next year we're going to have a phenomenal year.
But experts caution getting back to where we were isn't like flipping a switch. The head of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis telling Savannah reopening will be a slow process and the unemployment rate won't tell the full story.
I think the number tomorrow will probably be something like 16 or 17%. I think the real number is probably around 23 or 24%. It's devastating.
Devastating. To put this into perspective, the job losses we've seen now over the past 6 weeks or so have now wiped out all of the gains since the Great Recession, and that was 10 years ago. And keep in mind, just a few months ago, we were celebrating record low unemployment. The question now is which industries will be the slowest to recover, which industries will simply not be able to get back up on their feet very quickly. Airline, travel, leisure, hospitality are among those that are most at risk, say the experts. Savannah?
All right, Tom, thank you. And let's turn to one of those experts, Andrew Ross Sorkin, who's our colleague over at CNBC, the host of Squawk Box and a New York Times columnist. Andrew, I mean, there aren't enough words in the dictionary to really express how bad this is expected to be, a real gut punch in terms of this jobs report. And yet many experts, such as yourself, say it may not even capture the true picture of where we are with the unemployment situation.
It probably won't capture the true picture. And so you're going to look at a number. It's going to look like a terrible number. And I hate to tell you that it's going to be, in reality, even worse. And, of course, for anybody who's not getting a paycheck right now, they understand the depths of what's taking place. I think today what we really need to look at, though, is whether there's, quote unquote, contagion, how far and how widespread this is. Is this really just within the industries like restaurants and travel and lodging and things like that? Or are we going to find that there are real job losses taking place in what we thought were work-at-home, service-oriented jobs? If, in fact, there are layoffs in those industries, it's going to be much tougher to rebound as quickly as I think so many of us so desperately want to.
Yeah, and another item I know you'll be looking at is whether or not these job losses are described as temporary, furlough, or permanent, because won't that kind of underscore how quickly any recovery could be?
It's a huge issue. We want to see whether these jobs are permanent job losses or furlough jobs. If they're furlough jobs, there's two things going on. One is there's hope. There's an expectation by the person that they're going to get that job back. That's a huge issue because it means that we might be able to rebound more quickly. It also means that somebody who's furloughed typically is still paying their rent. They're still paying their mortgage because they anticipate that they're going to have their job. And therefore, you're not getting a trickle-down effect to create a larger crisis. So we're going to be looking at that. We can also see in some of these numbers whether there are people who are now part-time, whether they're taking pay cuts. So there's going to be a lot in this report that we're going to be able to glean from.
Well, and it's going to be difficult. Andrew Ross Sorkin, thank you for helping us sort it out this morning. Hoda, over to you.
All right, Savannah, thank you. Now to another major story we're following, that breaking news out of Georgia overnight, where a father and son accused of chasing and killing a black man have now been charged with murder. NBC's Blaine Alexander joins us with the very latest on this story. Hey, Blaine, good morning.
Hoda, good morning to you. In about 2 hours, we're expecting to hear from the Georgia Bureau of Investigations right here about those two arrests, former law enforcement officer Gregory McMichael and his son Travis. Now, those arrests come after days of protests across the country and more planned for today, what would have been Arbery's birthday.
This morning in southern Georgia, a father and son are behind bars, arrested for a shooting that has sparked nationwide protests. Gregory and Travis McMichael have been charged with murder and aggravated assault in the death of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery. Overnight, Arbery's family says it has been a long wait.
It made me feel a little relief, me and my family, that we know they were behind bars, but we still got a long process to go.
The shooting happened in February, but the release this week of this video showing the altercation quickly sparked a national outcry.
I think the video release was absolutely essential because I think the breaking point was the investment of the world community.
Celebrities, including LeBron James, Serena Williams, and Taylor Swift, all tweeted demanding justice. Former Vice President Joe Biden also weighing in.
And his family and the country deserves justice, and they deserve it now.
From Georgia's governor, a promise for a fair and thorough investigation.
It's absolutely horrific, and Georgians deserve answers.
In the video, the two men, who are both armed, are seen following Arbery in a pickup truck as he is running down the street. The men confront Arbery, and after a scuffle, he is eventually shot dead. NBC News cannot verify what happened before or after the events shown in this video. Arbery's family says he was unarmed and was just out for a jog.
What actual justice looks like is these men behind bars for the rest of their lives. Anybody who participated in this very public lynching.
The McMichaels told police that they followed Arbery because they believed that he was the man involved in recent home burglaries. This 911 call by an unknown caller was recorded shortly before Arbery was killed.
And you said someone's breaking into it right now?
No, it's all open. It's under construction. And he's running right now. There he goes right now.
According to a police report, Gregory McMichael, a former police officer, claims Arbery began to violently attack Travis, and the two men then started fighting over the shotgun. And McMichael says his son shot Arbery in self-defense. The case is now on its third prosecutor. The previous two recused themselves over possible conflicts of interest. Now, 10 weeks later, an arrest, but those demanding justice say this is just the first step.
And today, supporters have organized a virtual run using the hashtag #IRunWithMaud. They're urging people everywhere to run, walk, or jog 2.23 miles to represent the day that Arbery was killed. Savannah.
All right, Blaine, thank you. And in the meantime, the coronavirus outbreak has now hit very close to home for the president. The White House is now going to ramp up testing for people around him after a member of the military who serves as a personal valet to the president tested positive for the virus. NBC's Peter Alexander joins us now from the White House. Peter, good morning.
Savannah, you're right. That coronavirus scare, it's now hitting very close to home for President Trump. This man testing positive is a military valet whose duties bring him to the Oval Office. And they're raising new questions about whether enough is being done to protect the president. The coronavirus now reaching the West Wing, with one of the president's personal valets testing positive.
Yeah, it's a little bit strange, but it's one of those things.
The valet, a member of the Navy, who NBC News has learned would serve the president his lunch and Diet Cokes and perform other duties.
I've had very little personal contact with this gentleman. Know who he is, good person, but I've had very little contact. Mike has had very little contact with him.
A person close to the White House saying President Trump was, quote, lava-level mad at his staff when he learned the news, saying he does not believe they're doing all they can to protect him. A source with knowledge of the situation calling it an operational failure. President Trump says he and Vice President Pence both tested negative on back-to-back days, Wednesday and Thursday, insisting the White House is now tightening its protocols.
Testing is not a perfect art. No matter what you do, testing is not a perfect art. So we test once a week. Now we're going to go testing once a day.
But while the White House begins daily testing, the supply of those same tests nationwide remains far below the level experts say is needed to reopen the country safely. Earlier this week, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, when pressed by NBC News, dismissed the idea of tests for everyone returning to work.
If we tested every single American in this country at this moment, we'd have to retest them an hour later and then an hour later after that, because at any moment you could theoretically contract this virus. So the notion that everyone needs to be tested is just simply nonsensical.
President Trump said to me yesterday that his valets wear masks. In fact, he said a lot of people in the White House wear masks. But covering this place over the last several weeks, I've got to say I've almost never seen any official or any member of the White House staff wearing a mask inside the West Wing. Savannah?
All right, Peter, thank you. And another big headline this morning, the criminal case against Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor, has been dropped. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, no, this is an important development that we just saw happen here. The Justice Department has now moved to drop its case against Flynn, who pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russia's ambassador to the U.S. and was fired, you'll remember, by the president. After a review, the DOJ concluded that Flynn should never have been charged in the first place, arguing that his statements were not material, not central to any investigation the FBI was conducting. The president, who has been considering a pardon for Flynn, he welcomed the news, praising Flynn as a great warrior. All of this a stunning reversal, though, by the DOJ, and it's now igniting new accusations from Democrats and former law enforcement officials that Attorney General William Barr and the Justice Department are bowing to political pressure. Savannah?
All right, Peter Alexander with the headlines from the White House. Peter, thank you. 7:15 now. Hodo, back to you.
All right, Savannah, thank you. We do have a lot more to get to this morning, including the first on-camera interview with the woman who's accused Joe Biden of sexual assault. NBC's senior Washington correspondent Andrea Mitchell has more on the new claims that she's making. Hey, Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Hoda. Tara Reade's comments are her first on-camera response to Joe Biden's strong denial of her assault allegation just a week ago with Mika Brzezinski on MSNBC. As the Biden campaign points out inconsistencies in Reade's account over the years. Reade says she now believes Biden should exit the presidential race. She doesn't think that will happen. And a warning for our viewers, some of the language is graphic. In her response to Biden's denial, Tara Reade emotionally describing what she says happened in the spring of 1993, describing being asked to bring then-Senator Joe Biden a gym bag in a Senate office building.
He greeted me, he remembered my name, and then I said, you know, here you go, Senator. I handed him the bag, and it happened very quickly.
She alleges Biden pushed her up against the wall of a Senate corridor and put his hand under her clothes.
He had his hands underneath my clothes, and it happened all at once. He had one hand underneath my shirt, and the other hand I had a skirt on, and he went down my skirt and then went up.
Reade claiming Biden pulled back when she resisted.
He pointed his finger at me and he said, "You're nothing to me. You're nothing." And I think that's the hardest thing.
Biden has consistently denied Reade's claims, repeating his denial Thursday when asked about her new comments.
In every case, the truth is what matters. And in this case, the truth is these claims are flat out false.
A year ago, Reid was among several women who said Biden had touched them inappropriately in a non-sexual manner. Biden later vowing to be more respectful of people's personal space. But in March, for the first time publicly, Reid came forward with her assault claim. She also said she had filed a complaint with the Senate that did not mention assault. No complaint has been found. The Biden campaign issuing a statement Thursday saying, "Every day more and more inconsistencies arise. Women must receive the benefit of the doubt. They must be able to come forward and share their stories without fear of retribution or harm. And we all have a responsibility to ensure that. At the same time, we can never sacrifice the truth." Asked if she would take a polygraph, Tara Reid says that victims of violence should not have to and that she is not a criminal, but she would take one if Biden did. Only portions of Reid's conversation with Megyn Kelly were posted online so far. The Biden campaign says no one from his Senate staff recalls ever hearing about such an incident, and the lawyers who vetted Biden to run for vice president say they found no misconduct of any kind. Hoda?
All right, Andrea Mitchell for us in Washington, D.C. Andrea, thank you.
Let us switch gears now. Time to get a check of the weather, including, the story we've been talking about all week, the polar vortex for Mother's Day weekend. What a gift, Al.
It's the gift that keeps giving, guys. But ahead of that, we've got some severe weather going on right now, part of the same system that eventually is going to be affecting the Northeast. Strong storms. We've got severe thunderstorm watches and warnings down through Texas, Louisiana, on into Arkansas. Meantime, 102 million people under some sort of frost advisory, freeze watch, or freeze warning into Sunday morning. That Arctic air will be pushing down to the south from that polar vortex. Record lows challenged. Wind chills anywhere from the upper 20s to the low 20s to upper teens. And into that will come this low pressure system racing eastward. Rain and wet snow moves into the northeast. Back on the backside of that system, we'll be looking at snow developing through central New York into upstate New England. And that will continue to bring windy conditions tomorrow into Saturday and Sunday. And we look for hit or miss scattered showers and snow flurries, wind gusts anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour through the Northeast. And northern New England could see upwards from 6 to 8 inches of snow.